for tuning in today. We have an amazing guest for you. We have James Russell. James is a writer, producer, and owner of Manks Motion Picture Studios, Inc. Let's welcome James to the show. Hi, James.
Hi, Marilyn. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, you do so many wonderful things, but I want everyone to know, where are you recording live with me today on Wi-Fi?
I'm in my living room in Toronto, Canada.
You're in Toronto, Canada. Wow, that must be so amazing.
It is. Have you been to Toronto?
I haven't. My mom and dad did. They said it's really beautiful. I met some lovely people from Canada. Can you tell us what the weather is like today?
Actually not bad. It's when I went out for my morning walk, I go out around 6 o'clock every morning for try to get my 10,000 steps in. It was 35 degrees.
As that isn't cold, right?
It's a little cool. It's a little cool, but we expect it to start warming up. We're getting closer to spring.
Oh my gosh, because I don't know about where I'm in Los Angeles, and it's like 87 degrees, scalding hot today.
Oh no! April. Oh no!
Yeah. So when you said 30 degrees, I is that was there snow on the ground, or you're still wearing?
No. The snow's been gone for a couple of weeks now, but it's still a little cool in the morning, and then it heats up to around 45, 50. By the time we get to around 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, you're still in sweater weather, mitten weather, coat weather, for me anyway.
Yes.
But I want everyone to know. So your Manks Motion Picture Studios Inc. is your company, and you also have written. How many screenplays did you write? You wrote over 27 screenplays.
That's correct. 27 feature films and 3 or 4 pilots, and I'm on my 4th novel.
Oh my gosh. And you have some amazing projects, which we're going to talk about, one including an Aaron Brockovich style thriller and a human trafficking drama with a 16-year-old witch. So we have so much to talk about, and I want to ask you, so how did it all start? Did you have a favorite childhood film that you just loved when you were a little kid?
Well, that's interesting. Yes, I guess I had a couple. Of course, Godzilla was one of my favorites. It scared bejeebers out of me, and it still does. The original one, of course. But I think in terms of creativity, I guess it was The Asphalt Jungle. And of course, I saw it. It was released in 1950, and I saw it much later. But it still stays with me.
That's a pretty intense film, right?
It is. John Huston, and I think when I look back at it, I think I was at first. My first impression was it was disturbing, but then the more times I saw it, and I've seen it many times, each time I see something different in it. I see something. I learned something more about not only the actor's journey, but also the directing and the cinematography. It was just amazing.
Yeah. So you go from Godzilla, the lizard running around and scaring everyone, and very interesting. I was like, oh, I love Goonies and E.T. and Escape to Witch, and because you had that 16-year-old witch, and it made me think of Escape to Witch Mountain. But, I just love, oh my gosh, Goonies, you name one of those. And I'm just a happy camper in those. But I love that. And so did you go to a theater? Was it like a small, like a theater that was like your hometown theater? Did you go with your parents or your friends?
Actually, I grew up around Pico and Crenshaw in Los Angeles.
Oh, you grew up in LA.
And there's a theater just around the corner. So yes, my brother and my sister would walk. My parents would give us, some money. I don't think it was much. There certainly wasn't $13, $14 a pop. Parents would give us some money, and we'd walk down to the theater together and watch whatever matinee there was.
Yeah, it was such good times when you could go to the theater. And I remember you could watch them over and over again. You could actually stay and watch it a couple of times. Remember, those were the days.
Yes, yes, no more.
Yeah, now there's a usher. You need to leave the building. Must leave the seat for the new people coming.
Yeah,
So
yes.
yeah. So and then speaking of, so well, if those are your favorite childhood films, I'm kind of curious then to see. What is Do you have a favorite Criterion film then?
I'm. That's a good question. Um, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with Matwan by John Sayles in 1987. Um, it was a story about a union or a union organizer and the sort of collective organizing of workers in the South. It was, to me, it had a great impact on me because I'm a believer in unions, and I've always have been, and I've also been active, in terms of social issues. So it had I think Matt Wan was the first film that told me that it's possible to tell important stories.
Yeah, and speaking of like a union movie, so it's called Matt One. I know John Sayles, but I never seen that one. But
Oh yeah, it's Matewan.
oh, very interesting because right now in the news, Amazon, they were trying to in the South try to get unionized, but it didn't. The vote didn't go through. So that might be a very good film for people to look at. You know,
Yes, yes, absolutely, and there are other stories similar to that, but I think Matt Wan was one of the first.
Oh yeah, like what was the other one on the boardwalk? What was it? The boardwalk or not on the boardwalk, but on the riverfront, right? One of those kind of movies.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Those are powerful films, and yeah, just the love of filmmaking and everything. And I'm wondering, because you write a lot. Is there a favorite director that you have that a film that you just if you could have written something like what would be similar to your style? So
Um,
yeah.
and in terms of a director, Spike, comes to mind immediately. But Terry Gilliam, the Fisher King, was just an amazing piece of work in my mind. So I would say Spike number one, Terry Gilliam number two.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. So what made you like the Fisher King? Why was that dear to you?
Well, of course, Robin Williams. Anything that he's in, uh, I'm I'm the first one to buy a ticket into the theater. But I think it resonated with me because a lot of the issues that he touched on sort of came to me as I was either growing up or in my adult stage. Um, so there were many aspects of the film that I could appreciate personally.
Yeah. Is there a favorite scene by a director that you liked as well? Because do you have a little bit of director in you when you write your screenplays?
No, I don't. I directed my first 5 shorts, um, and I had hair when I started directing. I slowly pulled it out. It was a nightmare. I don't know how. I have a great respect for directors. I don't know how they do it. I had 14 actors in front of me asking me what to do all simultaneously, and I had a crew of 35 behind me all asking me what to do simultaneously. It was impossible. It was just a nightmare. So I swore I would never try to direct another film again. So I have a great respect for directors and of course actors, nurses, and teachers. Those are my top three.
Yeah, wonderful. So yes, yeah, I'm a little. I like directing, so that's one of my dreams to be able to get to do a first feature. So for doing 5 shorts, it is a lot of work, especially if it's short films are a lot of work, and especially if it's it sounds like you had like a big, nice crew. That's beautiful. That's wonderful.
Yes, yes, and the feature that we began shooting last February, which we sort of got halfway through. I have half a feature horror film in the can. We had a total of 39. We had 19 actors, and the rest were crew. So, I was basically the spectator because I was the producer. I was the guy with the Visa and the MasterCard paying for everything. But the director did a great job. Unfortunately, we got halfway through our feature film, and I had to fire one of the key crew members, and then COVID hit. So we've got half of the movie in the can. In fact, this last week I was sort of editing it. It may end up being a short.
Oh, okay. So let's. I want to share with people your journey to you directing and writing and producing. So you're in Canada. So I'm gonna. Everyone's probably saying, "Well, ask him how to." Like he grew up in LA. So I'm gonna ask you. So where did you grow up? You said you grew up in Los Angeles, right?
But yeah, I was born in Los Angeles. I ended up. My parents. We moved to Pasadena. We went to John Muir High School and Pasadena City College. And then I ended up moving to Canada. And from there, I began my career in journalism. So I ended up working for 10 years for the Toronto Star, which is Canada's largest newspaper, as a photographer. And while I was doing that, I began writing. And since no one would produce my screenplays, I started producing them myself.
Yeah, and welcome to Hollywood, where it is a tough cookie to crack. As everyone knows, it's it's just very tough. I mean, so congratulations for taking that step and making things happen. So you were working for Toronto's largest newspaper as a photographer, and in your spare time you started writing, which is amazing because like working full time and being an artist is hard enough. So what was your first film that you decided to do, that you wrote?
The first film was a script that actually I'm still trying to get produced. We have John Billingsley of Star Trek and True Blood, who's going to star in it. But it grew out of an experience that I had with one of my sons. Happy Father's Day is a story of a loving father who discovers that his son has become a serial killer. So he sets out to try to stop his boy from harming anyone else. And it grew out of an experience that I had with one of my sons when he got into trouble, and there was the possibility that he would hurt someone. And I guess it came to me, what would I do? Just because your child turns 18, are they now society's problem, or do we as parents still bear some responsibility for their actions? So Happy Father's Day grew out of that experience that I had personally.
Oh wow, yep. I hope everything turns out in real life okay. I hope it.
Oh, it did. It did.
Okay, so it is a Happy Father's Day in real life. So that sounds like a really great concept. Like dealing with is my son the serial killer and how to stop him? That sounds wonderful. And you have amazing actors. So you are working to get that one done, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it has wide appeal because as a parent, you think about it. What happens if I do everything right? My child turns out wrong.
The bad seed, right?
Yes.
In the movie's version.
Yes.
Because that's why we like movies. Like, oh my gosh, because a lot of people are probably asking that question too, or like, and horror movies, like, I mean, we have an audience for that. That's such a big genre, especially the Halloween franchise, the Scream franchises. I think America or just the world just cannot get enough of those horror films, especially with that clown one. Remember the clown one? A creepy clown.
Oh, yes. And do you remember the movie with Tilda Swinton? We Have to Talk About Kevin. She touched on that as well. It's interesting because parents are divided. A mother will love their child regardless, but a father tends to have a breaking point. So in what we have to talk about, Kevin with Tilda Swinton, the mother realizes that the son has gone bad and is killing people, but the father denies.
Yeah.
So it's a subject that I think has broad appeal.
Yeah. And look at Dexter. That was such a huge hit. I mean, like that he was that killer. He was a charming killer too. So you're working at one of the largest papers in Canada. You start writing, and you wrote 27 screenplays. So and you started producing and directing your first short film. So can you tell us a little bit about your first short that you actually finished in the can?
The first short that I finished was called Henry, and it was about a woman, an elderly woman, who she was in her 80s, and her husband dies. But she doesn't want to tell her daughter because she's afraid that her daughter will put her in an assisted living facility because, of course, her daughter's going to think that her mother can't live on her own. So she keeps her dead husband in bed with her.
Oh my gosh, that's wild. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
that's creepy.
And eventually, of course, the daughter finds out, and the screaming begins because we have this mummified man lying in bed next to mom for the last year and a half.
Oh no! Wow! Oh my gosh! Well, where can our listeners go see that? Like, is it on iTunes or Apple or?
No, it's not, and I guess I should. I shot it. Gosh, I guess it was 15, 16 years ago, and we made a first copy, and then we sent it to a couple of film festivals. We didn't get a placement, and I put it back in the dresser drawer.
It's time for it to go into some festivals. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Psycho, a little bit like, in a creepy way with his obsession with his mom and like,
yes.
And that book that like we had to read in high school, what was it, Mrs. Haversham's Wedding, with the cake and the cobwebs and like and just like the wedding that didn't happen. That book creeped me out, and like I go, oh no. So, but like the movies like this, like they're movies that people love to watch. There's just something about it, like it's like that train wreck. You just have to watch it. You have to your writing is very interesting. So you're this award-winning photographer, and what was your favorite subjects to shoot? What did you shoot?
Well, at the Toronto Star newspaper, as a newspaper photographer, I pretty well shot everything, whether it be fashion or product or accidents or criminals coming out of the courtroom. I think mostly I liked the assignments that involved kids, because kids are so spontaneous, and they make great photo subjects. So oftentimes I would ask to be sent to the amusement park stories, or sent to say a story about a new daycare center, or a story about a child who made some special achievement. I think those were the most fun for me. The ones that I didn't like were the ones where some idiot was driving down the highway and was drunk and wasn't wearing a seatbelt, and he decided to destroy a bunch of other people, innocent people, and there are bits and pieces of people all over the highway.
Oh man, that's hard. That's heartbreaking, and it's also hard.
Yes.
Yeah. So what kind of, like, of the 27 screenplays that you write, do you have this genre, or do you is there a specialty that you do, or you write various topics and genres and subjects?
Yeah, various westerns, dramas, comedy, coming of age, as you mentioned, the one of the Reluctant Witch, about the 16-year-old girl who's captured by human traffickers, and I just started one. Actually yesterday, about a 65-year-old dapper man who actually recycles the victims of gang violence. He has a special truck where he washes them with bleach and wraps them in plastic and then dumps them in the Mississippi River.
Oh, wow.
So it's yeah, the genres are all over the place. The only one I haven't written is something in space. I've never done that.
Oh, some science fiction. I'd like to hear some science fiction from you. I was like, oh wow, because you, yeah. So you have this amazing. So your projects, custody denied. Can you talk a little bit about this custody denied?
Custody Denied is we option the life story and book about this amazing woman who lives in Pennsylvania. And in the script, she assembles a group of disenfranchised mothers and fathers who advise other mothers and fathers how to avoid the horrors of family court. Family court is a nightmare. Anyone who's gone through it knows that not only is it corrupt, but it's filled with people who have attained their particular level of incompetence. And it's not only mothers and fathers who suffer, but it's also children as well. Family court is a huge business. It makes millions and millions of dollars for states and the federal government through alimony payments and foster care. So, this is an Aaron Brockovich type story that we optioned last year, and we're still trying to find an A-list actress to lead this. We need someone with sort of the clout of a Bryce Dallas Howard or an Amy Adams or a Lisa Edelstein.
Oh.
And at this point, we're still struggling to make it through that firewall called agents. As you know, the first question that an agent will ask an independent film producer is, are you fully financed? And in Canada, we have tax credits. So we have 40% of our budget, but we're still trying to raise the other 60%. But it's a story that has wide appeal because there's so many victims of family court in the United States.
Yeah, so maybe Julia Roberts or somebody will hear it, and you get your Kate Winslet or your Halle Berry or whoever that could really just love this role, because there are people that are looking for roles. There is the procedures, but I was talking to this one producer. He's an independent producer. He got all kind of actors to do his film, and just by like somehow some way he got them to work on SAG scale. And there's just people that are making things happen. So it's just, I think, tenacity and dedication, and just really finding ways to meet people that will love and see, like, be part of your team. So I really encourage you to put some of your little short films out into festivals, because especially during COVID, a lot of people have been going to see films, and the films have been online, so it can get you that extra little perhaps a boost. And then I think people would love to see your work and work with you.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Custody Denied, it's a great role. Actresses are always telling interviewers that once you hit 50, there are no roles for women, but this is a great role for a 50-plus-year-old actress who is looking for a strong female lead character.
Yeah, and it sounds amazing that you optioned this book, and it's called Custody Denied. And then we talked about Father's Day, and we talked about The Reluctant Witch. And what about Nursey Christie Saves Christmas? That sounds amazing. That sounds fun.
Well, Nurse Christie Saves Christmas, talking about different genres, is the first family comedy that I've ever written. And I started talking about the script even before I finished it. And a gentleman in Texas who is actually born in Nigeria, but is a lawyer in Texas, called me And we've now partnered up. We're going to shoot Nurse Christie Saves Christmas in Rwanda, because evidently he has extensive contacts there. So we're hoping to get started sometime before the end of the year, probably November. But it's a great story about a fledgling nurse that finds herself in amongst chaos when Santa Claus ends up on her ward the day before Christmas, and she has to organize Christmas for him.
Oh, so cute. I love it. I love it. And you know that I have a kids podcast. And speaking of, so you're going to be shooting in Rwanda. Where exactly, can you share with our audience, where is that? And so Rwanda, you're going to be shooting.
Yes. So Rwanda is to the north, please correct me, is to the northeast of Nigeria. So it's toward the east coast of Africa.
Oh, yeah. And so, gosh, maybe we're going to have to do a kids version of that, because I just hit number 4 in Kenya this week on my Apple podcast for kids, Enchanting book reading. So,
oh, great.
Yeah. So
congratulations.
So maybe I could put a little teaser on my podcast for you when you make it, because, you know, it's very interesting. Like I told you, this one has hit number 1 around the world, and every week it hits big numbers in almost every country. So, and I have original kids content on there. So when I hear something like this, I'm like, oh, you know, I'd love to give you a little teaser trailer on my podcast as soon as you're finished. You know, I would love to put that out there, because I was like, I think that's by Kenya, right? Rwanda's.
It's near Kenya. I apologize to Mrs. Schneider, my geography teacher. I don't think I was paying attention in grade school, because I can't exactly remember where Rwanda is. But my partner was born in Nigeria, so he's very familiar with the landscape.
Oh yeah. And speaking of, also on Girls Guide to Investing, I had some investors from that are this 22-year-old guy with his own oil company. And another guy, I think he was born in Nigeria, he's now in London, that is doing some amazing things in the world. And so this sounds so cute. So see, you have one, like your stuff is taking off, it has wings. So it's a matter of putting the teams together, finding material, finding people that like it. And I'm just so excited for you, all the amazing work. So during COVID, did you write more, or what did you work on during COVID?
Well, during COVID, yes, I'm always writing. So most of my time was trying to put together deals, mostly on the other side of the pond. We're also trying to get Happy Father's Day made in Amsterdam. I've been having conversations with Dutch production companies, because it's a very European story. The serial killer kills people with Molotov cocktails, which is a European invention.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of my time I spent on Zoom.
Yeah.
I'm sort of zoomed out for the last year.
Oh yeah, and Zoom is take a lot of energy. So I want to ask, where do people keep up with you and find out what's coming up next for you, James? Where do they? Do you have a website or?
Oh yes, website Manks, MANKS studios.com. Manks is the first letter of the first names of my children, and of course you can find me on Facebook, Manks Productions or Manks Studios. And you can find me on Instagram as well.
Yeah.
And you can find me on IMDb and LinkedIn.
Ah, wow. So this has been just amazing. I'm so excited for all your great work. So once again, we had James Russell, who is an amazing photographer, and he has written over 27 screenplays, producer of short films, feature and post-production, and he's an award-winning photographer for over 10 years. And he writes amazing stories. And we're just so happy to have you on the show today. And your company is Manks, MANKS, your children's name, which I love it. And also Manks is being up for an academy, right?
Yes, that's true. That's true. That's quite something. And it's a wonderful, wonderful film.
Yeah, so maybe there's some really good luck to that name. So if you'd like to stay in contact with James, please check him out at his website. And thank you so much for being on the show today.